Hey, we're live. Mr. Minoletti hasn't joined us yet, so Aaron, if you'd like to start the meeting whenever you'd like.
Perfect. We will do our call to order. So if everyone would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the
To the
republic
republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
which is stand,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and
liberty
justice for all.
justice for all.
We will go with our roll call. Tammy, did you want to do roll call?
Tammy, you're on mute.
Doesn't look like she's on mute, but I do not hear her if she's talking.
I'm showing her on mute.
Oh, there we go. Now she's on mute.
Can you hear me? Because my screen is frozen.
Now we can.
We can.
We can hear you.
I do not hear you, Tammy.
Oh, can you hear me now? My screen.
Yep,
Minute.
we were just waiting for you to
Yeah.
do the roll call.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You're done.
Okay.
Yep.
Hurry up. Duff,
Here, Wolverine Lake, Michigan.
Ingram,
Here, Wolverine Lake, Michigan.
Laybourne,
Here, Wolverine Lake, Michigan.
Minoletti, Moretto,
Here, Wolverine Lake, Michigan.
Durango,
Here, Wolverine Lake, Michigan.
Tupper.
Here, Wolverine Lake, Michigan.
I apologize.
No problem.
I would like to make a motion that we excuse Craig.
I second the motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Oh,
Oh,
you
roll
gotta do the
call?
roll.
Mhm.
roll call.
Ingram,
Yes.
Laybourne,
Yes.
Moretto,
Yes.
Durango,
Yes.
Tupper,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Perfect. Correspondence. I do not have any. Does anyone else have any in lieu of Craig?
I don't see anything.
No.
Approval of minutes for ZBA meeting on February 16th, 2021.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second,
And we'll do roll call. Tammy, I think you're on mute again, but we were just hopefully doing roll call for approval of minutes.
come on. All right.
Oh, there you go.
Now?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to log in from my phone, I think, because my internet keeps seizing up. So, and after I do this, I'll log in from my phone.
Okay.
Duff,
Yes.
Ingram,
yes.
Laybourne,
Yes.
Moretto,
Yes.
Durango,
Yes.
Tupper.
Yes.
Okay, so presentation of cases. We have one case to hear tonight. ZBA case 21-704, David and Laura Bloom. Location of property, 859 Laguna Drive, Wolverine Lake, Michigan. EW-17-22-378-007. Basis for appeal, 1250.06 subset A, setback from property lines. R1-LF requires a 5-foot side yard setback and the average setbacks of adjoining properties to the water's edge, which is approximately 82.7 feet. Applicant proposes an approximate 4-foot side yard and 64-foot lakefront setback to build a raised deck. So
I'd like to make a motion that we open the ZBA case 21-704.
Second,
And we'll do roll call if Tammy is available.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Other than my dog who's got a bone and making all kinds of noise. Tupper,
Yes.
Tarango,
Yes.
Moretto,
Yes.
Layborn,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
You have to do that, huh?
Perfect. So David and Laura, welcome. If you would state your name and where you are calling from and tell us what you're proposing.
Okay, my name is Laura Bloom. I am calling from Wolverine Lake.
I'm David Bloom from Wolverine Lake.
Good evening. We are the homeowners of 859 Laguna Drive. We purchased this property about 3.5 years ago after extensive search for lakefront property to fulfill my husband's lifelong dream to live on a lake. And we spent the next few years here spending time on Wolverine Lake to determine if the community and the property would be where we would like to invest our money and time to develop into our forever home. We decided that this community was very welcoming and the lake was just beautiful. So we decided it was perfect to build our forever home. We then sought a reputable architect and builder once the building process got finally to a point where we could think about the landscaping, including the patio and the terraces. We sought a reputable landscaping company, X-Tier, whose co-owners, Kevin Webster and John Hodgkin, are present and will speak after us. X-Tier had completed a seawall for us and also for our two neighbors. And they were also working on landscaping designs for our two neighbors. So we got to see some of their work. And so we were interested in them setting forth a design for us. And we wanted a design that would incorporate our lot, which sloped upward away from the lake and had 2 exit doors on the approved house design. We wanted to preserve as many of the beautiful mature trees we have as possible. We wanted to use high quality materials to make it visually aesthetic to anyone on the lake and to our neighbors. We reviewed and approved their design that they gave us. Our patio and beds were built between mid-September and mid-October. Unfortunately, with the weather changing, we were unable to complete the design. But once the flowers and the greenery and the grass and the rest of the exterior of our house are complete, it will obviously add much more beauty to our patio. We have had numerous village residents stop by our house and comment on the beauty of the house and the patio. And that's all I have to say.
Great. And David, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I would like to see exterior what they come up with their final look. It's going to, I think, look a lot different than the way it is right now, because right now there's really no landscaping in there, and it's going to be completely regraded with additional topsoil and everything. And so it's going to look a lot different than it is right now, hopefully, once we get it done. And it'll be very nice.
Thank you. So X-Tier, if you gentlemen wouldn't mind stating your names and where you are calling from.
Kevin Webster, co-owner of X-Tier Inc. We're calling from Highland, Michigan.
And I'm John Hodgkin from Highland, Michigan.
Great. And is there anything you wanted to add on their behalf?
Has everybody seen the site? Have you guys been out there?
Yes.
Right now in its form, there's obviously no greenscape yet, no bushes, no shrubs. In the design process, the designer that designed this particular process measured the height from the doors down. And if we were to have installed steps at the both egresses, it would have pushed the patio lakeward quite a bit. Understanding that we have technically broke some rules here as far as the height of a patio versus the height of a deck and the definitions which those two have for Wolverine Township or Wolverine Village is the 18-inch rule there. This particular patio, I know that the true definition of the township there is that it is a deck, but in our view of what we were building when we built it, we were looking at it as a patio. At the egress point closest towards the neighbors, we're at 18 inches respectively on one side and around 28 inches on the other. And the other being the lanai side. So it wasn't intentional that it was built that out of the rules and regulations. And as far as the setback, going through the paperwork, we've never had issues with patios, including for the adjoining neighbors on both sides, building them within that region. And we've done a lot of work in Wolverine Lake. We've done a lot of work in West Bloomfield. We've always tried to comply and follow all the rules and regulations that are in front of us. And to be perfectly honest, we were negligent in this, not understanding that 18-inch rule was in play. But after the fact, we're requesting the variance so that the Blooms, as well as ourselves, don't have to take this apart and rebuild it. Looking at the sight lines from both neighbors, I don't believe it impedes any more than any patio would. Excuse me. Looking at the heights, there's some photos that my partner John has put together that if we can share them on the screen for you. There are a couple points that are excessive to the 18 inches, but there's a lot that aren't. And that's why the terraces were involved. And those terraces will be built up with planting soils as well as greenscape. And it'll be a lot more minimal. Looking at photo number 3 right off the cuff, because that's the biggest, boldest look, it looks like a lot of stone. It looks like it's pretty high up there. But if you can envision adding that greenscape, adding some bushes and shrubbery and lightening that up, none of the heights are super excessive. And John has put some notes on there on photo number 1 of 18, 28, and 35. The net of the 35, by the time we do final grade topsoil, sod, and do the landscaping, is realistically going to come down to around 30. Where you see 28, you're going to see somewhere in the low 20s. Where you see 18, it's going to be even less than that. So unfortunately, at this particular phase, without being complete, it looks worse than it really is. The variance on the side yard, right now we're impeding on the 5-foot setback by approximately 8 to 10 inches, depending on where you measure. I don't believe it's any more than 10 inches anywhere on the wall. And some areas are quite minimal, if any at all. But in asking for the 1 foot, we wanted to cover all bases and make sure that there was no other intrusions and ask for more than we really need just to be safe. So those are the few things I wanted to point out. You can also see the areas where the sight lines are from adjoining neighbors. I don't believe they block any views of lake or are obstructing them in any way. And plenty of other patios are well within the setbacks. And a lot of them are right on the lakefront, right on the seawalls, including multiple up and down the road. So with that being considered, I'm sorry, what's that? Not yet. No. With that being considered, do you guys have any questions, concerns, anything you'd like to talk about on that?
I don't believe at this time. We might circle back to you though.
Okay.
And
John?
Jacob, I don't know, is there a way for us to like take a screenshot of that to add it to the case? Since I don't have a copy of that unless it was missing from my packet.
Let's see.
This is our first Zoom meeting, and I don't believe we submitted it.
Okay.
However, when we were asking questions, they said just have it in a PDF form that we could share the screen with you guys. So I'm not sure if you can screenshot those or not, but by all means, feel free.
Could send a PDF if you're concerned Aaron about keeping it in the record, so they could, send a PDF to the village, and then we can get that put in with the materials.
Okay. Does that work for both of you to get that over to the village?
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like that right now, or do you want to do that?
No, after the meeting's fine, just so we have it in the record. That'd be great.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, anything else that you'd like to add or the Blooms would like to add before we move on? Okay. Jacob, is there anyone in the public?
No, there's currently no members of the public with us.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and close to the public.
I don't think you opened it yet. to
Oh,
the
I'm
public.
sorry. Let's open
Yeah.
to the public.
With a motion to open.
Motion to
Unfortunately.
open.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Laybourne,
Yes.
Moretto,
Yes.
Tarango,
Yes.
Tupper. Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
Okay, open to the public. We don't have anyone on the line. I do not have any correspondence. Does anyone else have
Motion.
any?
Motion to close.
Perfect.
I second.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Tarango,
Yes.
Tupper,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Ingram,
Yes.
Laybourne,
Yes.
Moretto,
Yes.
Okay, questions from the board. What questions do we have?
So I have a question for Tim. When the plans, would they have had to submit plans for the deck?
I haven't done after the fact, let's say the house was built with the doors barricaded and nothing in the yard, and they did the work they did. I haven't done a plan like that in the village yet. This one was done before I did the inspection for occupancy. So then you read the ordinance and find out that there's problems. So
Okay.
we in the past haven't got permits for patios. But we've changed the ordinance, but this is unusual.
This was a hurry up and let's get it done, it sounds like.
Well, to get the material in the lakefront and still landscape, all that hardscape tears up the yard. So I'd imagine why the yard's tore up. They wanted to get the hardscape in the back or lakefront to,
Mhm.
why it's under construction, kind of.
And then the other question I had was the other, one of the variance requests is for the distance to the lake frontage. Does that applies to raised decks like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is defined as a deck in our ordinance
Mhm.
and not a grade level deck because it's out of the ground.
Right. Is there a requirement for any kind of railings or anything to be placed around the outsides?
This one, I think on the Lanai side will require a railing, but we haven't talked about that yet. Being that the doors are barricaded and if it has to get lowered, then, they're wasting time and money on railings and things.
Mhm.
Raised walking surfaces that have a grade change on the other side of 4 feet require a railing.
Mhm.
And the 4 feet is measured a certain distance away from the patio.
And Tim, I just have a quick question. So if this was not at the elevation that it's at and it was within our ordinance, would we still be talking about the two, I guess, basis for appeal, the setbacks at this point?
If this was a grade level deck, they had a landing outside the door with steps to a terraced patio that went down that was, at grade, I would say, no, we wouldn't be here.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Was there any, I guess the issue here is you didn't realize it was now classified as a deck. Because my thought is when you decided to change, get rid of the steps and all that, saying, go for the lake, there's the setback between the average of the houses and the lake, the variance is considerable. So I assume that you were thinking with a grade level patio, that would not be an issue. Is that it? Because you're asking for an extra 20 feet for what would normally be a lakefront variance. So what I'm asking is, neither, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking very clearly tonight. Neither of the variances, side or front, were considered when you changed the design of the deck because you didn't understand that it was now becoming a deck and not a patio. Is that what I'm understanding?
That is correct.
Okay.
And the burden that we faced with the design on the particular project, if you see that there's a egress out of the lanai as well as an egress out of the face of the house facing the lake, and they're both going in different directions. If we were to lower the grade at that point, the steps impede and take up almost, a very large amount of the lanai, which kind of defeats the purpose of having it. And then the other steps protruding towards the lake would have forced them to cut down trees, which from the first meeting on, we were trying to keep the mature trees and preserve them to keep the environment friendly for the neighbors as well as them and Mother Nature, to be perfectly honest with you.
Did you consider shortening the length of the patio or minimizing the size to allow for the steps?
At the moment, the size is relatively conservative. I won't say that it's small, but it's definitely not large. I mean, comparably speaking with our other projects that we construct, I would say that this would be an average. I don't think by any means is it large or oversized. And again, to your point of when we're looking at patios versus decks, building permits versus no building permits, and we are a licensed builder, so it's not something that we were trying to shortcut in any way, shape, or form. We just didn't understand that the definition was 18 inches was a deck, so we did not apply for a permit in that case. And it wasn't really a rush thing at all either. There was a lot of planning that went involved with it, and it was during construction and intentionally for that same reason that was stated, to bring the materials in while things were tore up, as well as to kind of coexist while the weather was good, and knowing that they were going to try to move in the wintertime and have a patio and be able to use the egresses to utilize the lake in the wintertime and so on and so forth. So it is a weird situation. I totally agree with that statement. And I'd love it if we would have understood that and been able to lower it. But looking at the grade of the native grade before any construction was done, we're not too far off the 18-inch mark at the house. But when you do go out that 20 feet, now all of a sudden the topography slopes down substantially towards the lake. And I guess our goal was to blend in with the environment and to preserve the trees. And when the design was presented to me by my designer as well as the homeowners, they really liked it. And it was very uniform and safe, meaning the lanai area connecting to the patio area being at the same level without trip hazards or anything like that. It made it very usable, comfortable space. So again, I'll plead that we were ignorant in the fact of the 18 inches. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, but it was a mistake. So I don't know how else to describe it.
And not indicating one way or the other whether it would even make a difference, but just for my knowledge and for the knowledge of my board members, if your variance were to be approved, you talked about, additional grading and landscaping and topsoil and that kind of thing.
Yep.
What would you commit to in terms of sort of maximum height beyond the 18 inches at completion?
There's a couple areas that are going to exceed that, and Mr. and Mrs. Bloom can attest to this if you'd like, but their intent was to put a glass rail up for safety reasons as well, which wouldn't impede any views. It would be a clear glass railing, but for safety's sake. So if you guys have some recommendations on some changes and things that you would like to make, I know that the beds, the areas of those terraces that you see in the photos, they right now are graded to level with fill soil. When we put plants in them, we like to have a little pitch on that so that we're not created ponding areas that over winter and freeze and thaw cycles shift and heave and move things. So to be able to raise the grades to another 4 to 6 inches is very reasonable, and it would lower all of those heights with the exception of the property line, because we have to maintain our drainage on our property versus draining onto the neighbors. So that's one that we can't really adjust. And again, there'll be a rail over there. So with that being said, I don't want to commit to raising that one because that one's going to be a drainage issue that we don't want to create a new problem for the neighboring property.
Sure. Thank you.
So
just to remind you, sorry about that, Kathy. Just to remind you, I think that maybe Bonnie was going towards that too. It is within your purview to add conditions that are reasonably related to the request, if you wish, in making your decision. Just wanted to make sure you're all aware of that.
Yes, thank you, Leanne.
Thank you. So what I was going to say is that on the east side of the house where the patio deck comes out, it extended out past the line of the house, knowing that the house was close to the 5-foot separation. What was the thought on constructing it that way?
To be perfectly honest with you, when the design was made, it was looked at as in a standard building material. But when we went to the natural stone, the thickness of the building materials themselves is what caused the encroachment there, not the design itself. So if we were to use a modular brick or manufactured material, that could have very easily been 6-8 inch thick material. But with the natural limestone that they elected to use to kind of use natural materials, that particular material varies in thicknesses anywhere from 16 to 20 inches thick as far as from a depth standpoint. And to look at it from a structural standpoint, because of the post and the structural support of the lanai, that deck, and not try to go around that, we made a straight line there. And with the unclear staking of the property lines, I didn't think we were originally off until the survey guy came out and restaked and we ran a string line. At that point, we realized, oh, we better ask for this as well. Just so it didn't come up after the fact. We wanted to make sure that was clear that we did encroach on that. And in some places it's 0, some places it's 8 inches, some places it's 10 inches. but it, in no place is it greater than 10 inches.
And then
And
could you tell me
quick
what is the distance between that lower elevation and the higher elevation? You know,
Those
like
beds, I believe,
from the
are
water.
approximately 8 feet in depth from the
They're
lower.
8 feet.
What's that?
They're 8 feet.
I believe they are. Do you remember that dimension there? I can get a scale out. Give me 1 second. We did have a official survey from the original engineer come in and map it out, so we knew the exact distances in preparation for the meeting. So that's 18 for the patio or 20?
We figure you better be 20, yeah, 20.
Okay, so measure that now. The depth of this.
So that gives,
So we're looking at
it's about 10 actually. So you go, yeah.
almost 10 feet
Yep.
for the two lower ones that are adjacent to the two stairs.
Yep.
And then if you look at the one on the east side of the property, that one's approximately 8. And the one on the west side of the property is approximately
4 or 5, yeah.
5, I would say, on the scale. And in the past, whenever we've done terraces, the general rule of thumb is up X amount, which in, let's say, West Bloomfield, for example, is 29 inches, and then back would be 3 feet. So if you were to come off the patio onto the terrace, that particular township looks for 36 inches, and we're exceeding that everywhere on this one.
Thank you.
I have a quick question in regards to kind of the project as a whole and when the plans for this went in. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is a new build, Tim, or essentially the
Yeah.
house was built and the patio
Yeah,
at
the
the same
house
time?
was, demoed an old house and reconstructed a new one.
So was the intent to have this deck patio built the entire time when the initial house drawings were put together? And the only reason I ask that is you have a pretty long driveway compared to a lot in a few neighborhoods in the village, and this setback alone, after you add a railing, even if it's glass, I find it hard that it won't impede vision to the lake from neighbors' houses. I'm trying to understand, why it was set so far back on the property line to begin with, if there was a patio expected to be put in or a deck off the back.
I think that's,
If you're asking us when the design process started, it was after the house was almost, the basement and the framing was done, I believe, when Jason made the first meeting. We did work with the Blooms prior to that in planning for the seawall. Matter of fact, when we applied for the seawall permits, we did all 3 neighbors' permits at the same time. And I don't know the exact date of that, but it was prior to construction of the house. But the patio and the landscaping design didn't start till
that was after the,
probably June of last year or so, and the house was already erected at that point.
Okay. Thank you.
They're not really that much for, their front yard setbacks are even with the adjacent 2 properties, so it lines up on the street pretty close. If they were to pull that house forward, they would have needed a variance to construct it street side.
Okay.
Do you guys have a copy of the plot plan from the engineer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always a struggle when you're putting a larger house, new construction next to, smaller existing properties. It's always a challenge.
Okay.
I don't have anything else.
Anything else from anyone? Shall we go through our checklist?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, agree or disagree that special or unique conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not generally applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district.
Disagree.
I disagree.
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 That was 5. I'm also going to disagree, and we're stating our reason as similar property.
Disagree, like other properties around there.
Thank you. Number 2, agree or disagree that a literal interpretation of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the same zoning terms, and that the variance is the minimum necessary.
I
Disagree.
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 I'm gonna go 6 disagrees. And our reasoning,
For the above stated reason.
same as number 1. Number 3, agree or disagree that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. They are not self-created.
I think we can all disagree.
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 Anybody agree? 6 disagree. And we're gonna go with the same reasoning as 1 and 2.
Yep.
Number 4, agree or disagree that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance.
Disagree.
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 That all 5, so 6 disagrees. And we're going to cite our reasoning as,
Same as above.
okay. Number 5, agree or disagree that the variance will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the general welfare.
Gonna disagree with that. Mainly for the reason that Kyle brought up, in terms of it's probably going to obscure. Anybody agree?
Anybody?
I agree with what Mark just said, so I disagree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Disagree.
Disagree.
We're gonna go 6 disagrees, and we're gonna cite the sight lines.
Right.
Good. Okay, number 6, agree or disagree that the spirit of the ordinance shall be observed, public safety secured, and substantial justice done.
I would agree with that.
Agree.
Are we gonna go
Agree.
6 degrees?
Agree.
Yes. Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we approve ZBA case 21-07 at 859 Laguna, based off of number 6.
If I may interrupt, we do have 2 separate variances being requested here. So one is going to be for the side, and you will have to go through each of that. I mean, it might not be relevant in the end to them, depending, but you should still make a ruling on the side one and then the front setback one as well, please.
Okay.
We'll do this the side first.
So the motion would be for the 5-foot side yard setback.
Yeah, to
Yes.
approve the 1-foot variance to that.
Can we go ahead and do roll call?
Duff,
No.
Ingram,
No.
Layborn,
Yes.
Moretto,
No.
Tarango,
Nope.
Tupper.
No.
And then Leanne, do we need to go through the checklist if we're gonna keep the same answers for the second part?
site that that checklist is going to apply to both of them.
Okay.
Both of the reasoning to both of them was the same for
Okay.
both.
So we
We need
will,
a separate motion for that.
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ZBA case 21-704 based off of number 6, and that one would be for the 64-foot lake setback variant.
I second the motion.
roll call.
Tupper,
No,
Tarango,
No.
Moretto,
No,
Layborn,
No.
Ingram,
No.
Duff,
No.
Okay, so unfortunately, those two motions did not pass. So if you would work with Tim and the village to see what your next steps will be.
Okay,
I don't think we have a choice. And
yeah, that's what it'll be, sure. Okay, very good.
Thank you for your time. Okay, so we'll move on to new business. I do not have anything. Does anyone else have anything? Mark,
I would like to welcome Mitchell Trongo to our board.
yeah,
Yes,
this
Mitchell.
new business.
I'm Mitchell.
Great.
Welcome, Mitch.
Hi.
Do you prefer Mitch or Mitchell?
It doesn't matter. Mitch works fine.
Okay, cool. Welcome.
Thank you.
You got a tough one right off the bat.
I know.
Yeah, it
Yeah, that was tough.
breaks my heart to do, just say, to turn some of these folks down, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're doing a good job by going by the standards, so.
Yep.
The
That's what it's
village
about.
the village regulates 3-foot tall fencing in the lakefront. So when you put a mass limestone wall, to me, it
Mhm.
doesn't even compare. If you're regulating landscaping in the lakefront, that patio is vision, it is a mass of
oh, it's a
concrete.
it's a monster. It's a
It
it's a
is.
monster.
So I don't think you guys have to worry about anything. That was excessive, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
All right.
We did our job.
We have work next month.
We do.
We probably won't be invited to their housewarming party, but oh well. I'm sure they're nice people.
We have,
That's
I
on
think,
the-
multiple cases next month.
The 17th, is that correct? I think is the date that,
It says the 20th. Is that right?
oh, okay, yeah, whatever's,
The 20th?
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure I'm wrong there.
April 20th.
Okay, does everybody think they'll be able to attend?
I'm good.
As far as I know, yeah.
All right. When is your due date,
I
Erin?
was gonna say I might have a +1 with me at some point during the meeting. But I should be able to be there.
So exciting.
Yes.
How
Next.
are you How are you feeling, Erin?
I'm ready.
Ready to go.
I'm
What's your
ready.
actual? Will you
So end of
share
the
your
month,
actual
but
due date?
I'm gonna be induced next week.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yay.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah,
Wolverine Drive population is going to go up one.
there we go. More noise around the corner.
Yay. That's wonderful. Congratulations. We're so excited.
Thank you.
You did a really good job tonight too, Erin.
Oh God.
Yes, you
Well, you
did.
know, Craig likes to just throw me into the into the mix with no warning. So
Well, when you don't, you got to practice, this is something you just have to practice a little bit, until you can do a
Right.
few. And then we
Right.
start to flow.
it is different doing it on Zoom versus in person. So I have my notes in person, but not on Zoom. So
Yes.
Mark, did you have any updates from council?
Yes. So I think last meeting, the unfortunate demise of our treasurer, and I said then I couldn't speak on it because it had just happened. Unfortunately, she, I believe, was our treasurer for like a week and then passed away. So we are currently looking for a new treasurer. And again, going into budget stuff. We're also doing negotiations for the police and the DPW contract right now. So, and we're working to finish up several of the park projects, the bathrooms, which got renovated last year. We're hoping with the ground somewhat thawing, that stuff can start getting done again. So that's it.
That'll be nice to have those done.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a long time coming. It's so I believe we started talking about this six or 7 years ago.
Wow.
And finally, we finally came to the conclusion that even though we religiously applied for grants, we just never were able to get the grant money to do this type of project. And, you know, those bathrooms were built, I believe, in the 60s. And they were just not user friendly. Let's put it that way.
They were in rough shape.
Exactly. So it was time, and I think we came up with several compromises to try to maximize the cost efficiency of the renovation. And I think it's going to be great for Parks and Rec. They're going to have space where they can store stuff. They're going to have a small, I wouldn't necessarily call it a concession stand, but it will work for some of the events, hopefully once COVID is passed, where they can do some events there. And then again, the bathrooms are going to be handicap accessible for once, and just a lot of good stuff. So again, it's been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to see when they're done.
It'll be great for the community.
Yeah. And again, it's a long time coming. So that's it for me.
Well, from the Planning Commission, I did miss the last week meeting. I was out of country for that. So, but we do have another one coming up on the 25th, I think. And that one is actually going to be a public hearing. So I think this will be the first public hearing that we're doing on Zoom. And it's to discuss the property that is right at the corner of Decker and Commerce. Used to be a gas station. They're applying to have that rezoned to become a gas station again, a convenience store, gas station. And judging by the amount of people talking about it on the Wolverine Lake Facebook page, it's not a popular thing.
Yes, there is not a lot of support for that. I've gotten several council emails from people that are very angry about that, actually. Should be interesting.
Yep. So we'll see. Drop in if you get a chance.
Okay, with that, if nobody else has anything, I'll make a motion to close.
I second.
Wonderful.
Roll call.
Laybourne,
Yes.
Moretto,
Yes.
Tarango,
Yes.
Tupper,
Yes.
Duff,
Yes.
Ingram,
Oops, yes.
Great. See you all next month.
All
See you
right.
later.
Hey, guys.
Karen,
Have a good night.
take care.